So today's Friday and we just got done mowing. All week it's been wet, it's been hot, and I have to mow in the morning as well. So I'm going to do a quick tune-up on this machine. I'm going to sharpen the blades, change the oil, grease everything, change the fill filter, and give it an overall good look. This Kawasaki engine has a hose coming out of the side that is an 18mm drain plug. Makes it easy to drain the oil. And I like to loosen the dipstick as well. That way the oil will drain a lot faster. So while that's draining, I usually get some rags or towels and put underneath the oil filter, because with it being mounted horizontally to the engine block, when you take it off it's gonna leak some oil, so it just makes cleanup a little bit easier. And loosen that up with a oil filter wrench. Shouldn't be too tight, and when I put them back on I always just do it hand tight. Get the new filter, and I like to fill it with fresh oil. You don't have to fill it up all the way, but it's nice to go ahead and put some in there. Use a little bit of oil on the gasket as well, and that'll help seal it to the block, and also easier for it to come off next time you need to change the oil. And surprisingly, this oil filter will hold a lot of oil. It's a little bit bigger than the one they put on from the factory, and if you're working in pretty hot environment, I think the extra oil in there actually helps the engine stay a little bit cooler. So I always get the longer one. Make sure your drain plug's tight when you put it back on. Once all the oil's drained out, go ahead and snug the drain plug back tight and tuck it back in its little spot. Take the old oil filter off, you're going to spill oil, so just put some rags underneath there to catch it, and go ahead and spin on your new oil filter. And I just snug it up with my hand. There's no need to torque it down. Never had it leak or anything by just hand tightening it. So I'm going to go ahead and lower the mower down, get it level, so that the new oil will read on the dipstick correctly. I'm using a Mobil 1 diesel oil, 15W40. Works good for the Georgia summers. It's really hot here, and it seems to be a pretty stout oil. It can hold up to these temperatures the air-cooled engines get. Now go ahead and put about a quart or two in there. I think this motor actually holds around 2 quarts, but just remember that the filter isn't totally full of oil, so it's good to get it close and then run the engine. That way the oil will cycle through the filter and fill up, and then you'll have to come back and top it off and get your oil level correct. It would be a lot easier if you had actually quart size bottles of oil, but I buy them by the gallon. So usually it's about half of the jug is 2 quarts, obviously. So just pour about half in there, and then, like I said, run the engine and then check it and put more in if needed. Right here I'm just cleaning up any oil that was dropped from the old filter, and just double checking myself and making sure the oil filter is tight. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the mower back on a jack stand so we can get underneath it and break the bolts loose to take the blades off, to sharpen them, and go ahead and scrape the deck while I'm underneath there. It's wise to use gloves while you're doing this because those blades can be sharp. Not necessarily when you're taking them off since they're already dull from cutting grass, but definitely wear gloves when you're putting them back on. I've seen a lot of people get cut pretty bad and end up in the ER just from slipping while they're putting them back together. I use a block of wood to hold the blades while I break the bolts loose. Also, while I'm underneath the deck, I take a look and just make sure there's no cracks or any type of damage or anything. It's always good to just take a look at the mower, every part of it while you're working on it, so that if you see any problems you can address them. But these blades look pretty good. All the yards that I mow are in pretty good shape. There's not a lot of rocks or anything, so I rarely tear up blades. It's just more of just wear and tear. They get dull. And with all the grass I've been mowing all week, it's been soaking wet, so there's a lot of clippings up underneath here. And it's wise to scrape all these clippings out because it affects how the mower cuts grass, the way the air flows underneath the deck. You'll get a lot better cut if you can keep the underneath side of the deck clean. This up after we move the mower. So let's go and sharpen the blades now. So right here I have a 4.5 inch DeWalt angle grinder with a 40 grit flap disc. They work really good. They don't heat up the metal too bad while you're sharpening them. And these blades are tempered for hardness, so you don't ever want to heat up the metal. It'll actually soften it and the blade will dull quicker. It's wise to use gloves right here. Those machines and those flap discs, they don't care if you're grinding metal or skin, so it's really wise to wear safety gear and probably put the blade in a vise. You'll probably get a better job that way. But I just wanted to quickly show you how I do it. Normally I would definitely wear gloves and put the blade in a vise. put the blades back on in reverse order. I hand tighten them first and then use a block of wood to torque them down. And then you always have to clean up your mess afterwards. I try to keep the shop area clean since I'm always on the ground working on stuff. I don't want to be rolling around in grass clippings. So overall, give this mower a good clean bill of health. It's got 400 hours on it now. No problem so far, just regular maintenance like you just saw. It'll keep this mower going for a long time. So that wraps up this week's video on maintenance, and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.